I can't hear anything.
Erica, I think they're waiting for everybody to come back into the room.
Okay.
Party back.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
they didn't forget about us.
Yeah, I'll text somebody and so, but no, I can hear you.
Hey, baby.
I know. I'm like, now I'm gonna mute because then everybody can hear Yara.
Okay, just want to let you guys know you're live online. We can hear everything, so just be mindful. Okay, we're gonna go ahead back into, am I like that? Testing 1, 2. Yeah, I'm gonna be eating it after this. Okay, we're gonna go back into open session. Item 6A, is there a
I
motion?
got a motion. I move to approve the following candidates for membership from the resumes included in board docs: Paul Gilson, Charles Monteith, John Nelson, and Doug Lauer.
It's properly moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Green. Second by Ms. Green. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Waters, are you going to vote electronically?
I did. I just did it.
All right, thank you. Okay, that motion passes. Item 6B.
I move the board approve the draft charter school contract reviewed in executive session with the inclusion of the requirement approved by the board in its April 1st, 2021 motion renewing the school's charter, that the school do direct mailing to all attendance zone households and commit to the recruitment initiatives as outlined in their recruitment plan.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Who seconded?
Erica Coakley.
Okay, moved by Dr. French, second by Ms. Coakley. Are there any questions?
Not necessarily related to this, but for the ones that are coming up, can we try to line these up a little closer so the board can look at the entire package of charter and contracts at the same time?
Yes, ma'am, that would be a big improvement. We will do our best.
Okay, we ask that you please cast your vote. Are we waiting on? Okay, that motion passes. All right, item 5C.
I have a motion. Move to deny the request.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Green. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 7A, special recognition.
Thank you, Reverend Mack. Before I get started, we'd like to ask some very special guests who are here this evening to come into the room. Thank you, Reverend Mack, Chair Waters, board members, Dr. Postaway. This evening, we would like to recognize some of our very special partners that served CCSD students through community outreach engagement by hosting our students in learning pods this school year. I'd like, as I call your name, to just wave so that everyone will know who you are. Ms. Joyce Neath Smith with Beyond Our Walls. Mr. Coakley Hilton, Ashani Scott in the Azalea Drive Church of Christ. Reverend Nelson B. Rivers III, Ms. Nashonda Hunter in the Charity Missionary Baptist Church, and Ms. Lori Hammonds in the Trident Technical College, St. Paul's Parish site. We have a video that we'd like to share. Stephen, if you can please cue the video up for me.
To support our students who were doing instructions virtually this past year and who were doing their lessons at home, we reached out to community partners to see if they were willing to be hosts for our learning pods. Learning pods are locations that were housed in facilities where we could serve students in a smaller capacity. This way, students were engaged in their lessons because we had a CCSD staff member involved who made sure the children logged in every day, stayed engaged in their lessons virtually, and also completed their assignments.
We had an overwhelmingly great response from parents. Even our staff was able to see the impact that they made on the students throughout this pandemic. So we're really happy to be of service to our community, to our scholars, and to the parents.
We were able to work more closely with some of the kids to keep them on task. And we have a lot of people who are volunteers that come from all the communities in the surrounding areas, and they would come and we would do projects with the kids. We would have them during their break recess. We did several projects with them. So we try to incorporate that neighborly, type atmosphere for the kids to be able to build relationship with people who do not live in the community as well as the ones who did live in the community. So it's been a really nice project that we've done in the community.
Well, it helped her a lot. She was able to get more one-on-one attention, and to me, it was better because that she was in a school setting, in a classroom setting, she wouldn't have that one-on-one attention that she had with the learning pod with folks. So it was real beneficial to us.
It meant the world to us to be able to do what we say that we're called to do on a regular basis. This isn't for show. This is really, we're walking it like we talk it. And so we saw a need. We were able to open up our doors to our community. And that's what the church is supposed to do.
Sometimes kids need a little extra nurturing. They need to connect with people in their community. And that's where I really have a passion to do more work with, is to connect adults to children and the community to kids, and then the parents to school. I think we all should be coming together as a community to help make sure our children get a good education and that they're successful as adults.
I would just like to say, I want to thank the community partnerships who reached out to us and said, how can we help? How can we help our children? What do you need? And what services can we provide? And they were all eager and willing to do so. And we're very appreciative of that.
Board members, staff, and guests who are here, please join me in giving a round of applause to our community partners. Thank you so very much. The staff who supported this endeavor, specifically Mr. Don Kennedy, Ms. Michelle English Watson, Mr. Dennis Muhammad, and all who helped support this, we thank you as well. Thank you again, and we appreciate all that you do. And Mr. Harold Sanders, thank you so very much. And I'm looking right at him. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor, Ms. Taylor.
Erica.
Ms. Taylor.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Do you need these?
Yes, sir, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
coming around.
Okay. All right, at this time, Ms. Darby will be doing our public comments today. Ms. Darby?
Yeah, okay, we have, exciting, we have some folks here in public, in attendance at our meeting for public comments, and I just want to remind everybody that board meetings shall be conducted in an orderly and efficient manner. No speaker may use public comments to discuss personnel matters, otherwise private or confidential. Speakers are to discuss issues, not individuals, and we have a little timer somewhere. But we'll keep an eye on that. So first on our agenda is Lynn's Piper Loomis. So please come over here to our podium and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm running for U.S. Congress against Nancy Mace for South Carolina District 1. It's come to my attention that there is a curriculum that you no longer call critical race theory, but you call it an equity social studies unit, which is discussed over a period of 4 to 5 weeks. Our founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves if they knew that we are identifying each other by our skin color. When we do that, we devalue each other in humanity. We are more than just our skin color. I think we can all agree that. And that's actually a betrayal against our Constitution and our Judeo-Christian values in this nation. And when I see that there is such a push of that type of ideology, when I looked through the course syllabus and I clicked on the links that were provided to me, do you know who was idolized inside of that? Marxists, the BLM founders of the BLM movement, people like George Soros, Bill and Melinda Gates. Yeah, I clicked on the links and I saw that these were people that we were idolizing instead of people like Harriet Tubman. Do you know that when we look at the past and we look at reparations or we look at slavery in the past, we're ignoring the slavery that's taking place at our borders? We should be teaching our children about that and how to stand boldly and to speak and not have fear of retaliation, of racism or radical whatever, domestic terrorism. This nation was founded on some incredible values. Treat others the way that you want to be treated and not looking at the skin color, because when I look at every single one of you in this room, I don't see you by your skin color. I look deeper. Every single one of us was created in the image and the likeness of God. That's more precious than your skin color. It's not my past. We're not victims. We're overcomers. That's how this nation was founded. And I'm appalled that this would be approved in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Tara Wood. And y'all, we have 2 minutes. I think y'all probably know that, but just so you know.
Do I need to say my name or anything?
Nah.
No? Okay. Anyway, but I do represent a local Moms for Liberty chapter. So, but thank you for this time. Where is the transparency with these meetings? Why are they scheduled at 4 instead of 6 or 6:30 like all other school board meetings in South Carolina and across this country? You know, parents are at work during this time. I represent at least 30 parents that wanted to be here today, but they can't because of work. And why aren't there more parents allowed in this room to view this meeting in person? It is our right as parents to be here. We need to hear what you are doing with your portion of the $93 million being applied towards changing school curriculum in this state. I want to make sure you are keeping critical race theory away from our children. It is not your job to indoctrinate my child. Rather, you need to focus on improving academic standards, clearly, but not teaching social and emotional learning, which is the parent's responsibility. Do you understand what those SEL surveys are for? They are the first step in implementing critical race theory in our schools. What happens is Panorama, which owns SEL, they take our children's data, they present it to each school, telling them that they are racist and that they must begin teaching critical race theory in all subjects to become an anti-racist school. And as long as you pretend that this pandemic still exists, you can continue to receive emergency funding, federal money, so that you can push this Marxist agenda. Is this why we are still having to wear masks and social distancing in here? I don't understand it. The CDC says we have more chance of dying every day from accidents and Alzheimer's and, respiratory disease and strokes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need 3 minutes instead of 2. That would be great too. And please change the time to a later time. Thank you.
And next is Henry McGill.
Well, I don't know if I don't know what I wrote to qualify.
Mr. McGill?
Thank you so much. Feel free to stop me if anything I say encroaches on the personnel issues that you warned about. My name is Henry McGill. I'm certified in all areas of science and mathematics, and I am also certified in AP Chemistry and AP Physics. And I'm the only Black man at Academic Magnet High School who works there who's not a custodian. There are fewer than a dozen Black boys in the student body of nearly 700. And this year we had exactly one Black male graduate from the school, and I taught him in his senior year. I'm not here to talk about the lack of diversity at AMHS. I'm here to talk about academics. I was hired in 2018 to help build the chemistry curriculum, and after a year, I knew that we had to focus on the basics and increase the rigor of chemistry. You'll be surprised to know that AMHS has a weak chemistry curriculum. There are very few people on the AMHS faculty who are competent in chemistry, and the AMHS physics curriculum is based on New Jersey standards. The outgoing principle is not required that chemistry or physics be aligned to the South Carolina standards. This should confuse you because AMHS should be the curriculum leader for this state. The curriculum should be based on state standards, and professional incompetence should not slither under the radar from one year to the next. AMHS has an inadequate chemistry curriculum and a non-compliant physics curriculum. The outgoing principal at one time agreed that the chemistry course should be overhauled and that the physics curriculum should be state compliant. Nevertheless, the effort has been for over a year to drive me out of AMHS, and micromanagement has been used to make my job even more difficult than it already was, particularly under this pandemic. I realized I was hired in 2018.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
How about go on to your other key points?
I'm just going to finish.
Okay.
All right. Skip that one.
Yep.
Okay. I've submitted grievances concerning these things to deaf ears. but the fight is still on to remove me from AMHS, and I negotiated my most recent contract. Should I leave that out?
Yeah, we've got it.
My most recent contract to continue with the summative continuing contract to build out the honors physics curriculum.
Yep, we need, Mr. McGill, we've gone over our time.
Okay.
But we have your written comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and then we do have some written comments that all of the board members have received. There were 3 comments specifically about mask and encouraging us for next year return to pre-COVID type operations. There's some comments from Mr. McGill, and then there is a comment about North Charleston High School. So if everybody on the board will please make sure you review those comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Darby. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Reverend Matt. First of all, I'll check to see if those who are online can hear me. I know we've had some difficulty with that this evening.
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
All right. I don't know how to get any closer to the microphone, but
Yeah,
I'll
just don't
speak
get
up
too
a little.
close. Stephen, can you mic hers up a little bit?
I think they haven't.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you. Stephen, thank you for putting up the PowerPoint slide and forwarding the slides as we speak. I'd like to review 3 things with the board tonight. The first is the concluding COVID-19 update for this year. The second is where we are in the ESSER 3 survey process and next steps. And then the third thing is simply to celebrate this year and close out with some of the highlights of the accomplishments. So as I mentioned, the COVID report that you're seeing, the recent disease activity, will be the final report that we give on these data for 2021. We'll watch again when school starts up in August. If we go on, we're low in all 3 categories, thankfully. We remaining low, and then we have to remember that we're not testing as much as we did several months ago. So we hope that these results are reflective of the community as a whole. On the next slide that we will show again is the final report of this current school year, and we can determine when we start back up how long we will need to track these cases. We certainly aren't at a level where we would like to be when school opens, but we did see some student transmissions in the last couple weeks of school that concerns us. There weren't a lot of them, but there are still some in school. To give you the most recent COVID update now, I will turn it over to Mr. Borelli.
Thank you, Dr. Postaway. So on the next slide, you'll see our totals for the student vaccination sessions that we've held for 12-year-olds and above. Our nursing staff in total has completed more than 10,000 shots of COVID vaccination. A huge undertaking with our medical professional partners. As I said, we just finished our 12-year and older run across our regional sites at middle schools. And we did take into account anybody that was in high school or any parents or guardians that wanted a shot at the same time. So it really was a one-stop shop for families to get their vaccination. For the safe return or safe restart, that plan was submitted to the state initially end of last week. We received more than 700 public comments on that plan, which has been really well received as far as getting it out to the general public to provide information. Most of the comments received from the public involved not wearing masks next school year, both for faculty and for students. That will continue to be a review with our medical professionals. We're obviously very optimistic that we are moving in the right direction. And so you'll see, we're going to hopefully begin with a recommendation here to you all at the end of this meeting, an action item for future board meetings that'll start our process moving in that direction. We did survey our principals for plexiglass removal. We asked them to talk with their faculty, talk with their school improvement councils, talk with their PTAs about the timing of that removal. We received most of those surveys back, and most of them would like the plexiglass removed as soon as possible. So we have begun that process in the schools that want it done right away. We are leaving the plexiglass in place for summer school programs, through summer school programs, and we'll continue that removal through the summer and into next school year. That's all I have, Dr. Postma.
Thank you.
This, of course, is a copy of the safe return report. It was structured as if it was designed more for districts that had not reopened fully. We want to point out that we can amend that plan as we move through the summer and get ready to open it in the fall. We certainly would like to return to as close to normal operations as we safely can. Moving on then to the next topic, we want to update the board on the status of the American Recovery Plan Act. We refer to it as ESSER 3 planning. There are 8 steps in the process, and as you look at these circles around the center here, I will tell you they're not necessarily in sequence, but I'm going to talk very quickly about all 8 of them. So the first 2 that I'm going to talk about are on the next slide. Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Just to review, we've conducted the planning focus groups to try to get the community's ideas about how best to involve the community widely and broadly, widely and deeply. Then from June 11th to the 22nd, it's now over 4,000 people who've responded, and of the 15 areas for investment of the ESSER 3 funding, they narrowed it down to 6. So the details were in your packet. It's pretty amazing across various groups. The consistency in feeling that mental health services and support activities to address the needs of low-income students and impacted subgroups, addressing learning loss among students, summer learning and supplemental after school, and educational technology for students, as well as indoor air quality, were the primary areas that the public who has responded felt we should focus on. So the next steps, beginning tomorrow and for 2 weeks, we will post those 6 priority areas for feedback. So we moved into gathering suggestions under each of those priority areas. What is it that our personnel, our parents, and the public think are the most important ways to think about, for example, summer engagement of students or after school engagement. So our practitioners have an opportunity to offer suggestions, as well as those who are impacted as students, parents, or the larger public. During that 2-week period, we'll also call parents from 24 of our highest poverty schools. 20 names were randomly selected, so there's 480 phone numbers. We'll be actively working the phone lines over the next 2 weeks, posing questions to the parents or guardians in those households about what they feel their students need most and what the school district could do from their point of view to best support their needs. We're planning community events so that the public can attend in person or Zoom to offer discussion and suggestions in these areas. And then we're also seeking to piggyback on any community meetings that are already scheduled where large numbers of parents would be present. If we can have 30 minutes of time or so to talk about what we're proposing, the implications of the American Recovery Act for American Recovery Plan for public schools and impacted communities. And the final planning stages on the next slide, this is the last slide for the ESSER funding. We will turn the input that we've received into proposals. So for each of these areas and for some of the other areas on the 15 choices, we will suggest some proposals. We will post those proposals and also seek to get public comment on whether we have correctly understood what people have recommended. And our proposals will be based on the research that we have about what most impacts student learning. The list of proposals with the widest support or those that we know from our training have the highest what's called effect size, the highest impact on students, will be brought to the board, and then the board will be asked to prioritize those areas on August 23rd. Then we will submit August 24th. So that's sort of how we think that timeline will work on the ESSER planning. Board members are welcome to be part of the process at any point, and we will certainly make you aware of when we are conducting any public input sessions. So Moving on to the final topic, then, we simply want to celebrate 2021. There were incredible COVID-related accomplishments. As far as we can ascertain, Charleston County Schools is the largest school district in the country to open 5 days a week, every single week throughout the year. Even though we had a few days with children joining online because we had other things we had to get done, like vaccinate teachers, we ran more in-person days for more children than any other district in the country, as far as we can tell. So in order to do that, we just listed some of the things that people did, and there are more, but one of the most amazing is the plexiglass dividers that we feel helped keep our spread rates down. The air filtration systems, as you know, were upgraded so that in almost every area of the district, every 10 minutes, classrooms received fresh air. There was timely contact tracing, you know, all of the work that our nurses did. Jeff's just mentioned some of that. Over 10,000 of the vaccinations. That's just amazing. As well as conducting a large number of saliva tests. So our nurses were on the front line and exposed themselves in ways that were pretty high risk for them as they helped us manage the risks of bringing children back to school. We operated for the first time a K-12 virtual school that Carolyn Belcher and her staff stood up fairly quickly. Next year, that virtual school that we're going to share with the other districts in the region has now grown to having 8 districts participating. Our IT folks rolled out lots of technology to make sure all the children had access to it, MiFi, Wi-Fi systems. There were lots of new digital programs put in place to try to support learning, as well as a new learning management system. And I know that probably has very little meaning, but it's a huge step forward for our district. It allows teachers to connect with one another with student material, keep student records handy, all in one central location. We've talked about some of the social, emotional, and wellness supports that we've provided. There was a significant increase in the numbers of students who were being taken to the emergency room during this crisis. It has been a really difficult year, and we all appreciate the extra support that the board gave us. I hate to just keep reading these bullets, but I don't want to leave anybody out. The security and emergency management, IT, nutrition services, transportation, communication, everybody devised new ways to do their jobs and to respond to what kids and their families needed under COVID. Teachers, we all know, altered schedules, their class rosters, their teaching modalities from time to time. As more students returned to the classroom or some regulation changed and we had to make some modifications in our operating protocols. There was improvisation across every single department, area, and person in the school district. And there were heroic leaders at every level. And I just want to take a moment to recognize the staff in this room, those who are watching, joining tonight, and those who are not. It has been one incredible effort. It's hard to remember where we were this time last year. And heroic leaders exist at every level of the organization. These are people who voluntarily do the hard thing. They take risks. They make sacrifices for the greater good. They put themselves in situations they're pretty uncomfortable with because they have a need to serve. So I just want to pause for a moment tonight to say, last time we met, we weren't quite finished with the school year. We are now. And I just want to join with the board in expressing again our deep gratitude to everyone who was part of this effort and to the parents and students who were absolutely amazing as they worked with us through unpredictable and difficult times. So thank you. And there's an old saying that the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So even while we were dealing with trying to operate during a global pandemic, there were several inputs, outputs, and outcomes that were accomplished. And I thought it would be good tonight to just take a moment to review some of the inputs and outputs. The final slide will look at some outcomes. Even at these conditions, we opened 6 new facilities on time and within budget. We transitioned with a pretty high level of success to a new transportation vendor and in-house routing. We centralized the screening for child development. There were 1,900 students screened over the last 3 months without any loss of instructional time. And that's a huge difference from the way we used to do things previously. We would actually shut down the child development program in order to conduct the screening. So this was a pretty amazing outreach effort. We were awarded a new 5-year competitive Early Head Start grant. The board's focus is to make sure that all of our teachers who teach in Head Start are fully certified. We opened the new Cooper River Center for Advanced Study and prepared to open one in West Ashley to serve the southern part of the county. We made significant progress on staff development with our own staff in cultural competency. We ramped up services to English language learners because we were out of compliance. The Department of Justice settlement had several requirements and timelines that we had to meet, and the staff has worked really diligently to do that. We operated 2 successful teacher residency programs where teachers are teaching alongside master teachers and getting their advanced degrees. One was at Memminger with the College of Charleston, and the other is at C.E. Williams North with the University of South Carolina. We launched a new data analytics platform for staff across the district. We developed and implemented a new mobile app for CCSD and improved the metrics significantly for our communication with parents. And with the new board, we established goals and provided the first quarter report in June. Whether or not those goals fit the ideal pattern of what goals ought to look like, I don't know, but we got it done. And if you've been here all along, it makes sense if you've been able to follow all the pieces. But if you haven't been here and just stepped in, I think the consultant who worked with the board recently made some really good points about gaining clarity on what were inputs, what are outputs, and what our outcomes are. So if we could just take a moment to look at the last slide, these are some preliminary outcomes. And the first thing I will say is these results aren't as reliable as they are in normal years because our testing conditions were less than perfect. And from the fall, we had lots of students who weren't comfortable coming into the school building itself to test. So several of our children didn't participate and several took MAP tests at home rather than in the school environment. So the gains that I'm going to report are not consistent across all the sites. Learning Services will have a further conversation with the board about the results analyses in July. So the first bullet would not normally be an outcome. It would be an output, but through the revised processes and the relentless work of teachers and principals and folks here at the district office, we actually tested 97% of our students this spring with the MAP assessment. The rest of these are true outcomes. Mary Ford Early Childhood and Family Engagement Center evidenced above average growth in reading and math both. 40 of 47 elementary schools experienced high achievement or growth in reading and or math when we look at the math indicators. Across grades 2 through 5, our students exceeded the national typical growth by 5 percentage points in reading and 13 points in mathematics. And Sue Belcher kept telling us to watch the mathematics. She felt that the curricular adjustments and the extra training that had been provided were going to pay off. So she was right about that. At the middle school level, 13 of 18, or if you count the 2 C.E. Williams together, 13 of 17 middle schools demonstrated high achievement or high growth in reading or math. And then at the high school level, we don't have very many indicators back yet. We won't, for example, know our graduation rate for a while longer because we have some students who are finishing up in the summer. But we increased the number of our graduating students, our 4th-year students, who were career ready according to the state assessment that's given for careers. It's called the WIN assessment. And then finally, our alternative schools in this environment improved the rate of restorations of students. And they also had many more graduates. Clark Academy, for example, had several graduates this past weekend. So I just want to acknowledge the efforts of everybody. It takes every single person on the team. On my best days, I'm a successful air traffic controller.
I'm just trying to watch the get out of the way for other people to get the work done. So I thought it would be appropriate to close out this school year with a report on how we did during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. I know this year has been a tough year for many in different phases throughout the year. But I'd like to say to staff on behalf of the board that we do appreciate the tireless effort that has been put into preparation, into planning, into making sure that we're able to open up for a 5-day learning safe environment throughout this year. There are some bumps in the road, but we're able to smooth those things out to get us to where we need to be. I know it's been Saturdays and Sundays and efforts and planning and preparation. So it was not just a 5-day work week, it was a 7-day work week because we were part of that conversation. So I just wanted to, words means a lot. And to hear it is important. And on behalf of the board, we'd like to say thank you to all of the staff, those that are present here and those that are not here, because there are a lot of people behind the scenes that does a lot of work that sometimes do not get to hear these thank yous that are being said at board meetings. But I do ask that if please senior cabinet level members to carry it back to your staff to let them know how appreciative the board is of the work that they are doing to help to get us through the COVID and also in preparation in the upcoming year as we move forward. Thank you so much for your work and what you have done.
Maybe it was inappropriate content. Does the board ever entertain questions from the people present regarding procedural issues? Not specifically, I don't want to discuss what I had planned to say, but for example, somebody wants to say something about the time allowed to parents who are equally as important as anybody in this room giving input, and giving us 2 minutes is certainly detrimental. I'm not coming to you to get a lot of our concerns voiced.
Yeah, so thank you for expressing that at this time. There are a lot of time for public comments at that time. Those can be shared. When you talk about the 2 minutes, the 2 minutes is policy that's outlined in policy for individuals to give their public comments. We do have senior level staff members that are present and you're signing in and your documentation of your information that is shared. When those are posed to us, to the board, we do have senior level staff members reaching back out to the public or to address those concerns in the area in which it falls in. So we do respond back to your questions via those information that you shared upon signing in. So just so just so that we don't continue the conversation, this is not the appropriate time to do this. And so I'm just. Yeah, so I just explained to you just a few seconds ago. Ma'am, let me finish. So I just explained to you a few seconds ago when is the appropriate time to address those questions. And we do want to hear from the public. So let me just be clear. Policy is 2 minutes, and that was allowed today as well. So we do ask that you, and if your question is not, if you were not given an opportunity today to address those questions, we do have an area to where you can send your question via email so that those questions can be addressed by the appropriate individual in the department of the concern in which your question is aired to. So we do want to hear from the public. So I just want to make that clear that we do want to hear from the public and we do respond back to you in an appropriate time to your questions and concerns that you do have. So I thank you so much for that.
Mac, I think it would be good to remind folks that you have all of our email addresses posted on the website and contact information. So that's an excellent way for people to reach out if they have something they want to discuss.
Absolutely. So just know that you can contact the district at any given point in time. And I just want to stress that to you as well, that we do want to hear from you and we do want to respond back to you as well. Okay, you are welcome. All right, we're going to move along. Item 10A.
Can we ask any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry, I got distracted there. My apologies. Superintendent's report was just presented. Are there any questions in reference to the report presented by the superintendent?
Question, if I may.
Okay.
Actually, there's a lot because it was a huge report, but with the ESSER funds, the federal government mandates are that you set aside at least 20%. This came out with the third ESSER 3, that a minimum of 20% be set aside to address learning loss through summer programs, extended school days, extended school years, etc. That's in your list of things to do. Do you anticipate explaining that to the community as you set up this survey for these 6 areas? Are you going to carve out 20% that is going to go directly to what basically is number 1 or 2 on everything here, and then prioritize the rest? Or do you just believe that you're going to hit that 20% if we just lump it all together and keep it in these 6 categories?
We believe that because Charleston County Schools has already been up and running, we don't need to invest in a lot of infrastructure to reopen because we've been opened, that by default and thankfully by opportunity.
Well, that's why it's not one of your 6, right?
Well over 20% of the funds will go directly to those students most.
So you're not
impacted.
going to parse out, you're just going to prioritize the 1 through 6. And what's your expectation of the board to prioritize? Is there prioritization means there's a think of it as the capital programs. It means there's something that's not going to get done.
Probably the same way we handle a lot of other recommendations. We haven't talked about how to do it yet. We don't have the input from the public, but my imagination is that there would be certain items we recommend because it's good sound practice and we know it'll make a difference. And the priority list might look like, we recommend these 3 things, and over here is a menu of 4 other things.
With the remaining money, you can pick and choose.
Well, for all of it, you can pick and choose, but
you're going to say, like,
will
there's
simply
4
say,
things that's going to cost this much. Here's the rest, and here's the rest we have. That's when we're going to have to start making some decisions to not execute.
I would imagine that that's the case, although I don't know. That's $163 million is a lot of money.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I can't fathom 6 categories and something not there. So I'm just, that's a little hard to wrap around. That we're already talking about prioritization.
And we're talking about not expenditures, but investments. What will show a return on investment in 3 years in terms of student well-being?
Okay, is there any other questions? Dr. Frazier.
Will there be other opportunities for community members to become engaged in the process? I have had some community members to reach out to me and said that they sent letters asking to be included on a committee and have not heard from the district yet. Where are we with that?
We only had 2 beginning planning group meetings to try to figure out how to get the community engagement. We took all that feedback and then are opening it up now to the entire community. So there will be future meetings, and everyone will be welcome to attend. By the time we received those letters, we had already moved forward with the list that was representative of the demographics in the various areas of the district. And again, the initial meetings were just about how to get community input.
So can we get back with those individuals, those letters, and let those folk know that they should not be hearing from us, or they will be hearing from us at a future date?
My expectation would be that the opportunities for input would be widely broadcast. I'd like to say yes to what you're asking us to do. I'm a little bit afraid we might miss someone because we had several requests from several different areas, and I'm not really great on retrieving all the emails I've filed. But if you know anyone who's specifically concerned, please let us know and we'll reach out to them individually.
Okay, Dr. French.
Yes, I just want to, this looks like a pretty good plan, and I hope that we'll use the summer programs as another opportunity to reach out to families and get them engaged. But something that Dr. Frazier said reminded me, we also do need to form a task force committee that's going to provide oversight while we're spending the money over the next few years. So how will we be working to decide how that committee is formed?
I don't know. I've given that no thought. I imagine that's something that needs to go through a board committee for discussion.
Okay, because I thought that that was part of the August deadline, that we had to have that committee formed.
In the original timeline that I gave you, it said something like best case scenario timeline. It did anticipate some sort of advisory committee, the way we have an IT advisory committee, to be part of this process. We still recommend that, but to be just blunt, we have not had time to think about that beyond acknowledging that we need it.
Okay, so that sounds like it's a board responsibility to pull that together.
I think as the way you've approved the people who have oversight on other committees, this is something the board would want to do. I think you'd feel more comfortable about that.
Okay, is there any further questions? One follow-up question, Ms. Coates?
The only thing, I think the reason these questions are coming the way that they are is it's $163 million. You're not very clear because you're going down the same railroad train that the rest of us are with this, but I want to make it clear that we are 56 days from turning this into the State Department of Education with a district that's going to close down for 9 of them. And that's a bit of a concern for the community and for us as a board, is that 56 days from now is August 24th. And I would just ask that you be cognizant of that online surveys, we've got to get them up, we've got to find them, we've got to respond to them. That's a lot for people to have to do, to be thoughtful and intuitive in their contribution. And I would just challenge us as a board to remind our community that it's 56 days from today and this thing goes to the state. That's what's in the presentation, and ask y'all to please be mindful of how you constantly try to get that information out. We have a communication team. This is that is an excellent team, but I can't say it enough. In 56 days, you're turning this into the state. And that's a little bit of time to make a lot of heavy decisions among 50,000 parents.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to add to our stress level about that, just to be candid.
Just saying, y'all created that timeline, not us.
And it probably is also a good time to say, we have to submit a solid plan, but everyone understands it's not enough time to make a 3-year plan. And so once the initial plan is approved, as we go along and see that we need to make modifications, we can submit amendments. So
Sure.
It isn't as if we
But
have
once
to.
that money's spent, it's spent, and we don't get to go back and course correct. I mean, it's a huge pot of money. It's a finite pot. So I mean, the stakes are high, and we've known about these dollar figures since December. Just now that we're getting to this crunch time, and I just want to make sure that we're cognizant of the stress on everyone, including y'all.
Yes, ma'am. We've known about the dollar figures, but there wasn't a process to submit an application. We didn't have the outline for how to get this done until more recently.
Okay, Dr. French?
Thank you.
Yes, I just wondered if I could make a suggestion that the ESSER, for lack of a better term, ESSER Oversight Committee that's required by the federal law. So we have to have it in place at some point. I'm not sure what the timeline is, but I'm wondering if that would be a good committee to report directly to Audit and Finance, considering. I'm sorry?
He did. Joyce and I have been participating in that committee. Is that?
There's a
that will
committee? There's a
evolve into
committee?
The task force that oversees the expenditures, or was that just a committee to do the initial work?
There's supposed to be community members on the committee as well. So I remember that you two were appointed, but how does that work?
There were roughly 90 people who participated within the 2 sessions.
That's not a committee. That's not a long-term oversight committee.
They're
That's
doing
what-
everything as efficiently as
Okay.
possible, knowing the current.
Here, I was
situation.
I was just suggesting a framework.
Got it. All right, Joyce and then Dr. Postwood.
Although that is not on the agenda, it may be that it's appropriate not to create a new committee, but just have audit and finance be that committee, since we do have community members on that. It's just something we can think about at the time, whenever the time is appropriate.
Okay,
Interesting.
I was just going to say we would add it to the next agenda for discussion.
got it. Okay, all right, any further questions on the superintendent's report? All right, hearing none. Item 10A, District 2 bus lot construction.
Move to approve the reallocation of funds.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Green. Are there any questions in reference to the item 10A?
So just one question.
I do have a question.
All right, Ms. Coakley and then Ms. Coates. Ms. Coakley?
I was just curious, like how many buses are being utilized in District 2, like broken down by school? I was just, because that's a lot for a bus lot. Like how many buses are being utilized?
All right, Mr. Baroe is going through his paperwork to get that exact number for you right now.
And I don't have it.
And he does not have it presently, but can we get that information to
Yes,
you,
sir.
Ms. Coakley?
Please and thank you.
Okay, all right, well, Mr. Baroe will get that information to you, Ms. Coates.
Actually, that was my same question.
Okay.
I'm going around, I'm having some conversations around the state, how smaller districts do this, because land price is one thing, but my question was for $6.3 million, how many buses are we servicing in that lot?
A lot.
All right, Jeff, can you get that information to the entire board, please?
Yes, sir, will do.
In the,
And then I call the question?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Call
Ms.
the
Coates.
question?
Oh, no, call the question. I'm sorry. I thought you said you had another question.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hearing no more discussion on item 10A, has been properly moved and second. We ask that you now please cast your vote. Ms. Waters? Waiting on your vote.
Yes, I voted.
Thank you. Okay, that motion passes. Item 10B, Orange Grove Charter School Facility Use Agreement. Is there a motion?
I move to approve. Second.
Can you read that motion, Ms. Coates?
Sure. Motion to approve the facility use agreements with Orange Grove Charter School effective July 2021. And direct staff to bring forward any additional approvals only if there are significant changes to the agreement.
Okay, that was moved by Ms. Coates, second by Ms. Green, I believe it was. No, Ms. Hederick? Okay, moved by Ms. Coates and second by Ms. Hederick. Dr. French, you have a question?
Yes, I was curious, the explanation for just a 5-year agreement for the middle school
That's a,
as opposed to a 10-year to align with the contract.
Eric, that's a
Okay.
historical thing from 2016 that we created. It made it off.
Does
In 2000,
that mean that we're promising them some other facility?
No, the board action, as Mrs. Coates was saying, was passed in 2016, that we would revisit this in 2025.
That's 4 years from now. though.
Well, end of 2025. So if you run through that school year, 25, 26, it ends up being 5 years.
the
School year.
board, when we did,
Right.
if I may,
Yes.
when the board approved the growth into the middle school, there were some specific board directives inserted in there that were at the time considered long range, one of which was that if they were in existence in 2021, we would automatically extend the facilities use agreement for the middle grades campus until 25, 26. So they are simply following a directive we made 6 years ago, and it will clear it up. So then it'll be 10 years plus 10 years. But that was a board action. That's not the district's decision.
Okay, well, I guess the question in my mind is, are we going to make sure this does not impact the D10 middle school that we're supposed to be constructing that is not a charter school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
The
so it's,
decision, our future
build
decision, which
charter
we will
schools.
recommend to the board for the D10 middle schools, will not be dependent upon this agreement.
So let's just be clear, we don't build charter schools.
right.
Okay. all
Well,
right.
it is
Oh,
a conversion school, and we do build facilities for our conversion schools. We are building one right now for James Island Charter High School. So, we do for conversion schools. And that's why I'm asking, because D10 still has a mystery project for middle school that we haven't identified where we're going to do it or what it's going, who it's going to serve. So I don't want those to get conflated as the same
Okay,
with Orange Grove.
all right. So, but what's on the table right now is item 10B.
Okay.
which
That's
is
why I
the
was like-
Orange Grove Charter School Facility Use Agreement. And that's what we're,
I don't think it's an auto renewed agreement. I mean, I read it, looks pretty close-ended and sunset to me.
so, are there any further questions in reference to item 10B? Dr. Frazier?
I have a question, Mr. Bory. Please tell me, how is it that in this agreement, we're saying that they would have to pay for any maintenance or any capital improvements, and yet we're doing it for another school, James Allen Charter School?
Dr. Frazier, I can't answer that question. All I know is the agreement I was handed to start with. And in our agreement, we did not have capital improvements in that contract originally. And when we gave them the middle school, we made sure we did not include it in the middle school because they asked for a facility we were ready to demolish. So I can't, that's a great question. I can't answer the question of what the difference is between James Allen Charter and Orange Grove Charter. The difference exists and we don't, and staff does not know why. We're just carrying an agreement from back in the day. So you've made a great point. We know that difference exists and that it exists. I agree.
So is there a way to get an answer to that, Dr. Postaway?
Well, ma'am, it was that those decisions were made by a previous board. You may be able to search board minutes and find the answer. I was going to say, I don't know.
I think, if I may, if it was converted, it was converted by board action, so then we would look at that.
Right. So a lot of these originated back in 2014 when we made these decisions, when we came on board. So it's an opportunity for us to explore that at a committee to hold discussion so that we can look at comparison as to those agreements. But of course, they'll have to, changes will only be made there when the sunset of the actual contract takes place. So right now, we won't be able to make any official changes to the contract with this in the scope of its terms of agreement. All right, but for later on reference use, I mean, for our opportunity to be able to look at and compare the two and why there's a disparity between the two ordered in the agreement. Yes, we can do that. But as far as making changes, we won't be able to because the contract has already been agreed upon.
So I would like to just request Reverend Mack that we take a look at that maybe down the line so that it looks fair for all of our conversion schools to have somewhere in the contract that.
Okay, all right.
Reverend,
Noted that.
brief, kind of small question.
You have a question? Okay.
So, and I guess this can't be answered today because I really don't think it's worth holding up this contract. But this is, I think John Regal said it best, it's boilerplate. So I don't know if we would like to see these more tailored to the schools. It had some interesting things in there. I also wonder if we could in the future for the next ones, there's always a provision that the district has to pay the expenses if the charter school cannot. And I don't know that we want to continue going down that road. If a charter school cannot pay a repair expense, I don't know how they'd be able to pay us back for the repair expense we're contractually bound to do. So maybe I don't know if that's a question for the superintendent or the person who wrote it, but I think that we need to kind of look at that. I don't want to stop this one. We've had a great relationship with Orange Grove. I'm not concerned about it, but this contract says if they don't fix something, we fix it and then we ask them for the money. And it's boilerplate, so I suspect that's in all of them. If they can't afford the maintenance, I don't know how they could afford the repayment. I don't like getting into those issues with relationships.
Well, I think we still have the financial review relationship with these charter schools, right? As they go along. Do we still
This is a
quarterly
contract
meet with
for 10
them?
years. The law gets very limited in how you can pull an existing charter.
Yeah.
The second question that I would have, and I think maybe this is a Friday update, is significant changes. That's a 10-year sentence with some very vague thoughts in it. And I made the motion, I approve it, but I just think maybe we want to think about words like significant changes when we're considering what that means. The board may want to wrap around that a little bit. And the last question that I have is, this contract specifically states that Orange Grove Middle School is a conversion charter. And I'd like some legal research into that because there was no Orange Grove Middle School when we converted the elementary school. Does the law require us to call it a conversion all the way up? Or, and I don't know that we've ever in the state faced that, but the middle school didn't convert from anything. And there are some contemplations about our accountability for capital programs in conversions. I don't think Reverend Mack will get those answers tonight, and I also don't think there's any reason not to continue the great work being done at Orange Grove.
All right, so if we can just note that as a follow-up to board information to be shared to everyone. All right, are we ready to cast our vote? Okay, that motion passes. Item 10C, Phase 5 construction and 8% capacity analysis, safety report.
I'd like to move to approve funding of 3 additional projects and budgets. Deer Park for 8.7 million, AC Corcoran Phase 1, 12.5 million, and Midland Park Land, 3.75 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Dr. French, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 10D, second reading of the FY 22 budget.
I move to adjust the FY 22 budget, approve, maybe, is it adjust or approve? Oh, yeah. To approve the fiscal year 22 budget for second reading with a 5.1 mil increase. In addition to a $1,000 salary increase, all permanent teachers will receive a 1.2% cost of living increase. Additionally, all eligible teachers will receive a step. Over the next 4 years, the board will add an additional step per year to reach at least 30 years on the teacher salary schedule. Non-teacher salaries will be moved to 97% of market for the 2021-22 school year, and at least 1 percentage point adjustment for non-teachers will be added in subsequent years to reach 100% of market. This is in addition to a step for eligible employees in fiscal year 22. The board will convene on or before September 30th, 2021 to determine whether any budget adjustments are necessary.
Second.
Properly moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Green. Are there any questions? Dr. French?
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate all the work that the finance department has done and all of the staff have done to get to this budget. I know that there's some different priorities that were coming together for retaining our talent. And I think this is a really good faith effort to meet that to get as close to that goal of 98% market value as we could, given that we also want to do more for our teachers as well. So I'm really excited to see what you've gotten together for us, and I hope that we will continue to stay on top of getting our non-teaching staff up to 100% as soon as feasible. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you answering all of our questions.
Thank you, Dr. French, for that statement. Any other questions?
Oh, her question.
All right, hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes.
Yeah, that's right.
Item 10E is information that was concluded in your packet, information on the risk assessment of procurement by Elliott Davis. Were there any questions from any of the board members in reference to that? All right, item 10F, which is the 2023-2028 capital program Phase 5 sales tax early out projects. That was included in your packet for information for your review. Were there any questions in reference to that?
I have a question because.
Dr. Frazier?
Yes. I sent out an email to board members, just addressing some of my concerns about how we select projects and how we prioritize those projects. Could I just ask someone to explain to me how some schools are left out and other schools are prioritized for improvements? Mr. Brewer, could you give me an update on that?
So the big picture is that we look at each facility by its building systems. So we have right now 13 building systems, roofs, HVAC, flooring, bathrooms, a number of other systems that take us to 13. We'll look at adding some additional items to that. Those building systems are rated based on a condition code. And if the condition warrants the building system to be replaced, it is prioritized among the schools that need to be replaced. And that's the capital maintenance plan that's approved every fall by the Board of Trustees. The last one was obviously approved last fall. That determines where the funds will be spent for capital maintenance, which is a significant amount of resources. The next way to determine is the capital building program. And last August, the board voted on the projects that were added to the capital building program, that were added to the referendum, and then voted on this spring in order by the board. Those projects were determined by the capital building plan, 5-year plan that was done by Mr. McNeil a little over a year ago. That was done with public input. We looked at building condition. We looked at enrollment projections. We looked at existing trailers on campuses, and projects were presented and approved by the board. That's the two big buckets. And then the third bucket is the fixed cost of ownership. And that list is brought to the board every February and was brought forward this past February for FY22. And we list projects by type of project. So you've got furniture, you've got building maintenance, you've got playground equipment, and those are prioritized based on the condition of the facilities at each of the schools. So within those three pockets of budgets, of resources, the projects are prioritized and presented to the board every year. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Barori, for that information. Item 10G is the monthly capital project report. We're shared for information. Are there any questions in reference to that? Item 10H is the monthly financial report that was shared for information. Are there any questions in reference to that? We have item 11A, which is policy JI, students' rights and responsibilities, second reading. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Properly moved by Ms. Coates, second by Ms. Hederick. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 11B, employee conduct, second reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Hederick. Motion to approve second reading of policy GBEB. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Yeah, she should, yeah, she should.
Okay, that motion passes. Item 12A, the Promise Ad Hoc Committee Report. Ms. Waters, are you on?
I am.
Okay, are you presenting?
Yes, well, so what we decided, the ad hoc committee has had 3 public meetings as well as conducted some research in terms of what the program needs to look like. And it has started down the path, what has really finished setting goals and intentions for the program. However, in our last meeting, we decided that we wanted to continue to tweak the vision and mission statement, which we had intended to present at this meeting. However, we see every reason to get this right and make sure that the language that we're using to discuss the program reflects the weight and the potential to really transform opportunities for children should really be reflected in that vision and mission statement. And so with that, we would like to actually come back in the July meeting to present all of those things together.
Okay, is there any questions from anyone on the ad hoc committee's report as of the present moment? Dr. Fraser?
Ms. Waters, you said that you all had community meetings or just, did I
No.
misinterpret you?
No, committee meetings, ad
Okay.
hoc committee meetings, yes.
Did you meet with anyone in the community regarding this promise?
No, we are not yet at that stage, Dr. Fraser. This is not a program yet. When we go to the community, we want to have something to talk to them about. And right now it's essentially an idea with some goals and with a mission and vision statement that we are working on. So we want to come to the community with a much fuller package so that we may get input and that they can have all of the necessary information to consider.
Thank you.
Okay, any other further questions? Okay, item 12B is the board development action request. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Motion to request the Council of the Great City Schools to submit a proposal to the CCS board requiring continued board development with the understanding the receipt of the proposal does not obligate the board to further engage.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Hederick, second by Ms. Waters. Dr. French for question.
Yes, I was wondering, I know that the consultant from CGCS, it does this nationwide. And so I'm wondering if we can ask them to help be sure that what they are proposing to us aligns with our state law, because there's a lot of things that may be different than what this consultant has experienced in other states.
Got it. Okay. Noted. All right, hearing no further questions, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 12C is the legislative update. We have Mr. Campbell online virtually. Mr. Campbell, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll go right into my legislative update. As you know, the most significant piece of legislation we have before the General Assembly now is the General Appropriation Bill for fiscal year 21-22. Of course, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago, I informed you that the Budget Conference Committee was negotiating the differences between the two versions of the House and Senate budget. We had 3 members of the Senate and 3 members of the House appointed by the Speaker and the President of the Senate to negotiate a conference report. Since then, the Conference Committee went back to their respective chambers. The conference budget report was approved by both the House and Senate. It was sent to the governor last week. The governor has 5 days to sign into law or issue vetoes, which he did on last Thursday. So tomorrow, the General Assembly will come back in and take up, there were 15 vetoes. The governor agreed with 100% of what the General Assembly funded for public education. Those 15 vetoes, I think you had maybe 2 or 3 that were related to public education, and they were inconsequential. One was in reference to schools of choice, which was a proviso that had been in the budget for the last year or so. Of course, since we already passed the schools of innovation legislation, it was not needed. Another issue was a reference to a local school district matter. So after tomorrow, when the General Assembly comes in at noon to take up the vetoes, they have to either override or sustain, and it requires a 2/3 vote in both the House and Senate chamber in order to override. Otherwise, those vetoes are sustained. And tomorrow, I would expect that once they dispense of those vetoes, the budget would be enacted into law, which would be a day before the last day of the fiscal year and before July 1st, fiscal year starts the fiscal year. So that's where we are now. And if you had any questions, I would certainly love to answer them at this time.
Okay, you're hearing the report coming from Mr. Campbell. Ms. Coates, you have a question?
Mr. Campbell, so the only thing that the legislature will discuss tomorrow are the vetoes. Anything else that he signed is no longer up for discussion. Is that correct?
Right. There's nothing really that would come up besides the general appropriation bill. It'll be just the vetoes on.
Thank you.
And we'll be sitting in a pattern to come back sometime in maybe August to deal with the CARES Act money or the American Rescue money, I'm sorry, that the state would have to spend. And then sometime, hopefully in August or September, they'll have the census data and they can start the process of doing redistricting.
So does that mean proviso 108 and 105 both are still in the appropriations bill?
They are.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Campbell? Okay. Mr. Campbell, thank you so much for the report, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I have a question for staff.
For
Staff.
Okay.
So, given that the proviso on the mask mandate survived the veto, why is the district still saying we want to look at future data? Is there, what's your perception on what that proviso requires?
Our perception of proviso 108 is that it prohibits school districts or schools from requiring that its students and or employees wear a face mask at any of its education facilities. As Mr. Campbell reported, the governor signed that Thursday. We were waiting for confirmation after the legislature reconvenes that we're good to go. I just heard it from the question you asked with Mr. Campbell that proviso 108 is good to go. Also proviso 105, which gives us guidance on the teaching of social studies, some of the social studies curriculum. So first confirmation we had was tonight, Mrs. Coates. That's why we have a legislative liaison.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you, Dr. Postlewaite.
Thank you.
Item 12D is the ad hoc committee for schools of innovation. According to policy BD, as board chair, I'm going to appoint an ad hoc committee for schools of innovation. I'm asking Dr. French, Dr. Frazier, and Ms. Hederick to comprise that committee, with Dr. French serving as the chair of that committee. And of course, it's in your packet, but it's to develop and to recommend CCSD policy to comply with Act 20, which is Schools of Innovation, changes to South Carolina Code 59-19-350, which will include a clear framework and process for any school intending to apply to be a school of innovation within the district. The committee will report back on or before the September 13th committee of the whole meeting thereafter or after. Okay. Any questions?
I have one.
I think that's Ms. Coakley.
It is me.
Yes.
And so currently, do we have any schools of innovation in CCSD? And are there any schools that are requesting to become schools of innovation? Just curious.
So we have, no, Charleston. Go ahead, Dr. Frazier. I mean, Dr. Postlewaite.
Yes, sir. You were on, you were handling it. We had North
Okay,
Charleston.
all right. I just wanted to make sure there
Meeting
wasn't any
Street.
others.
Meeting Street
Yeah.
is under the schools of choice, but the governor rolled that over into schools of innovation. And then we do have several inquiries from principals who may be interested on working on proposals for the 21-22 school year. No, 22-23 school year.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ms. Coakley, did you hear that response?
I think I did. You said North Charleston High. You said that they rolled that one over into a school of innovation?
North Charleston High is a school of innovation, and Meeting Street would now be considered a school, one of our schools of innovation.
Thank you.
It would be, at least that's my understanding from one of the vetoes that the governor included.
Correct. All right, any other questions? Okay, item 12E. Mr. Verroy.
Yes, sir. We're bringing forward for your consideration modifications to the boardroom for future meetings that would include returning to the 3-foot spacing between staff, board members, and guests, and moving toward a fully vaccinated mask removal process where signs are posted. If you're fully vaccinated, you can enter the room without a mask on.
Okay. Questions? Ms. Green.
So Jeff, would we be doing that based on the honor system?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any others? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that effective our July meetings going forward, that we go back to the 3-foot spacing for board members on our horseshoe and face coverings being optional for fully vaccinated attendees.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Dr. French.
So 2 questions. One is, how does the proviso that was passed impact? Part 2, can we ask anybody to wear a face covering or force anyone, regardless of their willingness to say whether or not they're vaccinated?
So the proviso specifically speaks to students and employees. I would suspect that's the board's call on how you want to handle others.
Okay, so because it's the district office, it could be considered differently, is what you're saying?
Because it's our board
It's an
meeting.
education facility.
Okay, so the second question, which has just left my head, so does someone else have a question?
Because it's hot.
Oh, we don't want to make up questions, but we'll, we're going to move right along. All right.
It was a good one.
Let's see. So it's been moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Dr. French, you're just right on time. Go ahead.
Okay, so the one thing I was thinking about, do we need to look at our temporary policy for public comments and adjust it?
Yes, sir. I have that on the list for July.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 12F is a request to Ms. Coates to participate in a conference with the PELP, Accelerating Board Capacity Institute. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Sure. Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second so that we can discuss.
Okay, moved by Ms. Coates, second by Dr. French. Are there any questions?
I have two questions. One is this conference going to do something that benefits the whole board, or is it more professional development for the individual board member?
That depends on what you want it to do.
Right now, Ms. Coates is the one requesting to attend the conference, so
Mhm.
I will assume, and I can't speak for Ms. Coates, but will attend the conference and she will share back with the board her learning from the conference. And if the board desires to take an execution based upon her reporting, then we will move in that direction. But right now, Ms. Coates is the one attending the conference.
And where is the conference?
It's virtual.
Oh, it's virtual.
So I just wanted to add that I'd asked a question earlier of Dr. Postlewaite, and she indicated that it might be possible to go ahead and pay for this conference during the current fiscal year, in which we do have enough money left in our budget to totally cover that. And it wouldn't necessarily be a problem in terms of the one night for the following fiscal year, FY22. Is that something that would sway people's opinion about?
But the conference is in the next fiscal year, so.
Right.
It is, but considering that you can pay for these things immediately online,
So
I'm not sure how that works out, but it,
Dr.
for myself, it
French,
makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue whether or not the cost is there, that the funding is there to do it. Right now, we're just, as the background information is shared and for Ms. Coates to attend the conference, it's where we're at right now.
Okay. I guess for myself, because the conference is so expensive, if I were going to attend a conference like that, if it meant that I was going to use more than my share of the budget, I would consider paying the difference myself. And I just wonder if that's something to consider, because
So
we do have a budget.
what's the difference between 1/9 and the share? And I
I think it's about $300 just based on rough estimates.
remember, I don't, all the other meetings, because of who I am, you don't, the district doesn't pay for my attendance to any of the other conferences. So I don't expend any of the money to the state conferences, like the one in December and stuff.
Because you're serving on the state school board
That's not
association.
right.
Okay. That's good to know.
Okay, any other further questions? Ms. Henry?
Cindy, what do you want to specifically focus on? So I've been asked if attending this would help me feel more comfortable with their issues with serving students with substance use disorder and seeing how they do act in inclusive manners. And I agreed with the outgoing CEO that this is something I would request.
Isn't this based on management and governance?
This is the same thing that creates the board governance. It's actually something that the chair is invited to every year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? All right, hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 14A or 13, let me just say, those are consent agenda items were approved at the beginning of the meeting. Items 14A is the upcoming meeting, which is the July 19th Committee of the Whole. And the board meeting is that one meeting we will have in the month of July. And then we will return back to our two meetings, which will be on August 9th, the Committee of the Whole, and August 23rd. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
This meeting now officially adjourned.